Hello everyone and welcome to the second part of my SpriteKit tutorial, and we're going to be building upon the project we made in the first part. So if you haven't already, you should go ahead and go ahead and watch part 1 and make everything I've made so that we're on the same level. And just a quick recap, last time we made a scene that we added to an SK view, and when we clicked on the scene we would have this node that would run a series of actions, and we also added some basic information down here to show us how many nodes we had and our draw count and our frames per second. Okay, so this is a project right here, and today we're going to learn how to transition from one scene to another. Like you would transition in your storyboard from one view controller to another. You can have one SK view present several scenes on top of each other, and you can even have one scene present another scene, and let's show exactly how to do this. And first we need to create a new scene, so we go up to File, New File, make a file, and that's a class, and we're gonna make a spaceship scene when we make a subclass of SK scene. We are also going to add another node, and we are going to give that node some child nodes so that you can see how child will actually move with the parent. So go ahead and make this spaceship scene. It's a subclass of NS scene. That all looks great. Go into the implementation file now, and just like we did in the first part, we implement the did move to view. And remember, this method gets called every time that this scene is presented to a view. And exactly as we did here in Hello World scene, we need to make this hidden bool, because we don't want this to draw itself again several times. So we make a private boolean variable in here. So add property bool content created and end. So again we say if not self.content created, so we haven't created our content yet. We want to create the scene contents, and we want to set the content created to yes. Now, as you might have guessed, we are going to implement this create scene contents that will, as the method name states, create the contents for this particular scene. And we're going to set a background color so we know we made a transition. We are going to call the SK color class, which is a type def for the UI color in this case, and we're going to make it a black color. We're going to set the scaling mode to fill the entire screen. SK scene scale mode aspect fit, because the scene needs to take up the entire space. And what we want to do now is create a spaceship node. And what we are making here is actually a custom node. Remember in the previous part we made in here an SK label node from the SK label node class. That's all good, and we get the behavior for a UI label, so we can set the text and interact with it like you can with the UI label. But what if we want to make our own node? Well, that's possible as well, because there's a class called SK Sprite and we can make a spaceship from this one. It's going to be a very ugly spaceship, but with a little imagination it's going to be a spaceship. And we make it using a method called new spaceship on self. And after we've made it, we want the spaceship to have a certain precision, and we're just gonna place it in the middle again. Get mid x on self.frame, and cgreg get mid y on self-def frame. So like we did with the label, we're going to place this in the center of the scene. And we are also going to add it as a child, so add child to spaceship. And remember, what we're doing here is we're adding a child. We are adding the spaceship node that we made up here to self, which is a scene. So we add the sprite node, the spaceship node, to the scene, to spaceship scene we're creating now. We give it a position, and we're making it using a method called new spaceship. So we need to make this new spaceship method, and it needs to return an SpriteNode object. And there we go. So what we want to do now is to make the hull, the main spaceship. And the reason that we're making the hull is that we're actually going to make lights on it as well. So we want to add these lights as different nodes. And the reason why we're doing this is actually a very common approach when you're working with sprites. You often make larger models consist of several nodes. For instance, if you were to make, let's just take this example, we're making a spaceship. We're making the lights be separate nodes, because then we can have the lights perform some actions while we have the spaceship perform other actions. If we made it all one node, we would have all actions running on the same node. So we make the hull, and in order to make the hull, we say SpriteNode hull equals SpriteNode alloc init with color. So we give it a color, skcolor, gonna make it gray, and it needs to be a size, so CG size make, we're gonna make it 65 times 35. Oops. Yeah. So what we did here was just that we made a custom sprite node, and we give a color and a size. So what we get is actually just a square box that's gray with 65 times 35 in size. So what we want to do now is create actions for the hull, and we make an SK action here. We're going to call it Hoover, and like we did in the Hello World scene here, with the label, we made some actions here. You see, we made each action, and then we added them all into one SK action to make in a sequence. We can actually do this just in one go, which we're going to go ahead and do right here. We're just going to go ahead and say SK action sequence, make an array of this, and in this array we're going to put SK action objects. So the first one, SK action object, we're making a new SK action, and we're going to say wait for duration 1.0. Next, we wanted to perform a move by x. We wanted to move 100x and 50y, and it needs to take a second. Oops. Then we wanted to perform another action, and we're going to wait for 1 second. And finally we need another action that says move by x minus 100 and minus 50. So we're moving it back to the original position. And comment there, and then we're actually done. So we made an SK action here called Hoover. We made them all into a sequence, and remember the sequence method of the SKAction class takes an array of SKActions, so we specify we want to make an array here. Then we create one action saying we want to wait for a second, then we want to move it, then we're going to wait again, and then we're going to move it back to the original position. And what we're going to do now is actually perform this sequence indefinitely. So perform sequence forever. And like we did with the label, we told a specific node to perform a specific action. We are again going to perform an action here on hull, which is the node we just made up here. So we want this spaceship node to perform the action we just made here, and we want it to perform this action all the time. So run action SKAction. So we made a new SKAction by telling the SKAction class to repeat action forever, and this also takes an SKAction as a parameter, and that's when we use hover. So we are saying to our whole sprite node that you need to run this action. Then we ask the SKAction class to repeat an action forever, and then we put in our SKAction hover as a parameter here. So right now this spaceship node will perform this sequence of actions indefinitely. But we're not quite done yet, because we also need to make some lights. So make light nodes for the spaceship. And we just create a new node. We're going to call this light 1. Self new light. Going to give light 1 a position. It's going to be minus 28.0 and 6.0. Then we are going to add this light node to the hull. So we say hull add child light 1. So the hull will actually contain this light, not the scene itself. The scene will contain the spaceship, and the spaceship will contain the lights. And you'll see exactly why we're doing this in a second. So I've never seen any spaceship have only one light, so obviously we need to make another light. We're going to call it light 2. So light 2 dot position equals cg.make, and it's going to be 28.0 and 6.0. So exactly opposite the other one. And we're also going to add this as a child to the hull. And then we want to return the hull. So now this method is all done. We make a spaceship, a new custom node, a gray box actually. We make some actions that we want this hull node to perform indefinitely. We also create 2 other nodes that we add as childs to the hull. And we return the hull so that up here in create scene contents, when we make a new spaceship, we get a hull. We get the hull we made right here. So this goes up here and gets stored here and gets added as a child here after we make a position for it. So all that's left to do now is just to make the lights. And we also need them to return an SK sprite node, because that's kind of what we said. We say we want to make an SK sprite node called light1, and we're going to get this sprite node from a method called new lights. Again, we make a new sprite node called light, and in this case sprite node alloc init with color, SK color. So I think yellow, that's a good color for lights. No, it's a spaceship. It might have red. Yeah, I believe last time I saw a spaceship, it had red lights. I think. Yeah, it did. So it has red lights because it's all invadey-like. And we need to make size for it. Gonna be very small because don't want to give away its position. So just small red lights on it. So now that we've actually made the light node, we want to make a blinking action, because we want these lights to blink, to flash. So SKAction blink equals SKAction sequence. Oops. Whoop. That sequence and SKAction fades. Oh, just a sec. We make a new SKAction blink. We tell the SKAction class that we're making a sequence of SKAction objects, and first action is going to be fade out with duration. It's going to fade out 0.25, and then it's going to fade in again 0.25. Yeah. And we want it to do this forever. So we can also make a new action, SKAction blink forever action, SKAction repeat action forever blink, and then we can tell the lights to run this action blink forever, and then return the lights. Now note here that we've actually done these actions in quite different ways, and you can also now see a pattern in the way that you make nodes and you assign actions to these nodes, and you can even assign other nodes to your nodes, and those sub-nodes, those child nodes, can even have actions themselves. So if we go up here in Hello World Scene, the way we made actions here was that we made each individual SKAction, so we had like 5 SKAction objects here. Then we put them all into one SKAction in a sequence right here. In new spaceship method, we made one SKAction called Hoover, and we asked the SKAction class to return an SKAction consisting of all these SKActions that were packed into this array here. And then we told the whole to run action by giving us a new action from the SKAction class, using the method repeat action forever, passing in Hoover as an argument or parameter. But in the new light method, we actually just made a new SKAction object. We made the sequence of SKActions just like we did up here, but then we just made another SKAction repeat action forever blink, and then we told our node to perform this action. So you can see there's actually a lot of different ways of achieving the same result, and there's no rule as to which one you should use. You should use the one that makes the most sense to you, the one when you read your own code, that you will know, okay, this is doing this and doing that to this. So just pick whichever way you feel makes the most sense to you. No one is wrong. They're all the correct way of doing it. Yeah. So now we have spaceship. We added 2 lights, which we created down here, and they were red lights. They would keep blinking. We added them as a child to the hull, and we told the scene to draw it up here, where it says create scene content. It makes a black background, fills the entire screen. It makes a new spaceship by calling this method down here, which also creates the lights. Then we give it a position to be in the center of the scene, and then we add it as a child to the scene. Again, this is a recurring pattern, a very well, the standard way of working with sprites. We make a scene, we add nodes to it, and perform some actions. So this is all, well, pretty much what we did with the SK label node in Hello World Scene. scene. So all that's left to do now is just to present this spaceship scene. And we presented Hello World Scene in the view controller of the SKView class down here. View will appear, then we made a Hello World Scene object and we presented it on this SKView. We can also have other scenes present scenes. So we can actually have the Hello World Scene present a scene. And there's a very specific reason why we want to do this. So first we import the spaceship scene. Then we go into touches began. This is when we pressed or touched the scene. It made these actions and faded or removed this label from the screen after animating it. And we're gonna make a few changes to this. We want to run the action and then transition to spaceship scene, or to a spaceship scene instance. So right now we just told the hello node, which is the label, to run the move sequence. But now we also wanted to perform something when it's done. So we want to have a completion block in here. And what we want the completion block to do, what we want the completion block to do is actually make a new scene, SK scene from the spaceship scene class. So spaceship scene alloc init with size, self size, because we want this new scene to be as big as this hello world scene is. We want to make a transition, so we make a transition object, I'm going to call it doors, and we are asking the SK transition class to give us an object that will say doors open vertical with a duration of 0.5. And then we say self.view, which is the SKView class that is presenting this hello world scene. So technically we are actually having this SK scene class present our spaceship scene, but we are doing it from hello world scene. And we say present scene, spaceship scene, and using the transition doors. So first we make another scene, which is an instance of our spaceship scene. We make a transition, and then we present it. So let's go ahead and run this now, because that's actually all there is to it. When we press this, this label should animate, and when it's done running its actions, it should present the new spaceship scene to us. Whoop, and there you have it. There's our spaceship with its flashy lights, red lights of auto destruction. This spaceship is totally going for world domination. I can feel it. Oh yeah. So let's take a look at the nodes down here, because now we actually have 3 nodes. But I thought we only made a spaceship node. We only have a spaceship here. Yeah, but we also have the lights. So the lights, even though they are just a subclass or a child to this spaceship node, they will still count towards our node count. And you can also see that we are moving the spaceship and the lights are actually moving with it. So the lights, when positioning them, they are being positioned relative to the parent node, the hull here, the spaceship. They are not being positioned relative to this entire scene. They are a child to this spaceship node, so they will be positioned relative to that one, and when the spaceship moves, they will move with it because their position is fixed inside the spaceship. So unless we specifically set a new position for these lights, they will remain there. And that's a powerful feature because then you will move with it. So we could build complex nodes by making nodes as childs to parent nodes and make a big node hierarchy. And then when we moved the entire node, we just had to move one node and the others would just remain in their own little position and follow suit. So I guess that's all there is to it today, guys. We learned how to transition from one scene to another. We made another scene and got some repetition in how to make it. We talked a little about child nodes. We saw different ways of creating actions and having nodes perform these actions. We saw how one scene could present another scene. Oh well, the SK view here is actually responsible for presenting all the scenes because we say self.view present scene. But we're doing it from hello world scene, which actually removes a lot of work from the view controller here. And the transition here says doors open vertical with duration. And the transition is, we can just try and create another one. Let's take horizontal now, and let's have it actually take 3 seconds. That's a pretty long time. So we can just see what it is. You can see there. You can see it opens horizontally into the new scene. And there's actually a lot of different transitions that you can make. And it's a very powerful way of changing from one scene to another. I guess that's all there is to it today, guys. I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions at all, please go to my forum. The link's in the description. Post your question and hopefully we can sort it out. Or if your program is doing something unexpected, you're getting some errors and you can't understand why you're getting them because you really think that you did everything I did in the videos, but you still get an error, so post it on my forum and hopefully we can get you going. Also, of course, please subscribe if you like the videos. That's what's keeping me going, that's all these subscriptions, and please leave a comment or give a thumbs up. It all helps to keep me motivated to make videos. And I want to thank all of you who've done so. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time.